Hey everybody. So I think this one could be a masterpiece. Who would have thought we would have gotten two period dramas that are also vampire movies in 2024, 2025, right? I mean, we're talking 5 months apart, both amazing, both palpable, right? They have this cinematic, delicious quality to them. Nosferatu was something, it was an interesting watch, and Sinners is nothing short of, well, masterful. I don't put it at masterpiece level, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. But the good first is that we have top-notch acting, good writing, great cinematography, good sound design. Across the board, this movie is knocking it out of the park. Ryan Coogler can make good movies. Everything he's output has been great. I do have my own reservations about some of the things he's pulled off, specifically in his third acts. But this movie is a joy. It is not what I expected. I mean, I went in for, a vampire horror movie, but we don't even get to the barn where the vampires show up until halfway through. Now, they do show up in the early to buy it and everything, but I mean, really, the party doesn't really get started until 30 minutes in, and then the vampires aren't even there until later, which just works really well. Narratively, you get character-driven story, which is just so engaging, and that pulls you forward into the horror that comes later and throughout the night. The unsung hero in this movie is actually the villain. I think everybody will look back and think, this was not mustache twirling, this was not one note, this was an interesting take on what the main vampire villain can be in a movie. And then to play that off as this mythical devil Satanist type thing, but in conjunction against the racism and underlying themes that are at play with class structure and things like that in the 30s, is just so well done. It's so good. It's so great. I think there's Oscar contention across the board for this movie. Michael B. Jordan as both brothers is exceptional. The guy who does the guitar is great, who becomes Buddy Guy. He's something to watch. He's going to be somebody we want to take note of in the future. Ryan Coogler, I could see him getting a Best Directing nod. I think there's potential for the music and the sound to get Oscars. There's a lot here. There's a lot of great work on display. I think some of the other things I really like about this movie, the ending of him deciding to remove his totem and then take on an entire army of KKK members was really well done and felt very similar to the ending of Gladiator, right? He gets to do his final thing, he gets to kill the emperor, and then he gets to go home to his family. That final score over him walking through the field and touching the grass is so iconic and so good. I feel like this movie actually touches on that, right? Him getting to sit there with his wife and his dead child is absolutely gripping and so earned by the time that he gets to that point that you want him to go with them. You want him to pass. You want him to have said, I've done everything in this world I need to do. I'm going to go be with them. And then on the flip side, his brother and his brother's love of his life, I guess, get to live forever, which is an interesting play on the vampire situation too, because there isn't much that they want more than to just be together and to live out their days in the sinner life. But you're happy for them. You know these characters so well that to see them be 50 years down the road and talking to Sammy again, you feel like, oh, cool, I'm glad they made it. I'm glad they stayed a family, right? Even though the rest of the vampires die that night. Or at least we think. We think most of them died, right? They all burned up with whatever his name was, the main vampire. So something else that's cool about this movie, there's the fight scene between Michael B. Jordan and himself, the two brothers fighting up in the top of the barn, doesn't end. And you're left wanting. You're wondering what happened, who got killed, what was the result of that. But the movie's moving so quickly that you don't make sense of it until that you come back to it at some point. And in this movie, the way they come back to it is a reveal that the brother has actually run off with Haley Steinfeld's character. And that plot device of leaving a plot hole and then answering it in a way that is unexpected, but also in a way that builds character development and shows the relationship that had been there from the beginning, but was at a little bit at odds, with how they ran the business, why they were back in Alabama. Were they Mississippi? I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think that there's some great writing actually in that regard, and something that I wouldn't want to overlook. And then my favorite thing, this is my top thing in this movie, is the oneer that happens at the beginning of the first opening of the party, when everybody's there. Pianist has been playing for a while and the guitar player's taken over, and he takes over and plays a song. And this oneer, which is a masterful piece of filmmaking to move the camera through the dance and change the dancers out in conjunction with the musical score, is mind-blowing. It's so good. It takes everything from the movie and puts it in one place and says, this is what our experience is like. This is what the 30s might have been like. Here's where it comes from, why we African Americans are having such a struggle across that time. And not being Black myself, I have no idea how to speak on that. But what I can tell you is that compilation of experience in the form of dance and music brought me to a better understanding of what they must be feeling on a daily basis, how they understand their plight in this country, and what that's looked like over time. And, they couple that with the fact that Michael B. Jordan gets to shoot a bunch of KKK members, which is super satisfying and absolutely really well done writing. I just couldn't believe how good of a connection that the music, the dancing, and then the narrative plot point of, hey, this guitar player is bringing the evil to the barn because of how good he is. With the control of spirits by music is just such an integral thing to the human experience, and makes the historicity of that movie way more palpable and intriguing and real, in my opinion. Because maybe vampires aren't so real, but the experience that's at play and the drama that's at work with these different characters and the racial tensions is very real and has been around for a long time. Seeing that played out as a thematic, crafted oneer is mind-blowing. So all that to be said, this movie is not perfect, and I definitely do not call it a masterpiece. And mainly that's from one main scene that just takes everything away from this movie, and it's the action logic. When they open the doors and the vampires enter the barn for the first time because the Asian lady decides that she's gonna try to get them all in to try to kill them, none of it makes sense. There is not a logical step-by-step progression of how many of them entered and how many people survived. Because there were only 6 or 7 people still left in the barn that were not vampires. And they should have been able to they would have gone down fast. Let's just say that. So it made no sense. It's silly. Why? Why not actually not let them in until a little bit later when you're gonna release it all and then they can disperse? It just doesn't make sense. It's weird. It's unsettling. And it pulled me out of the movie because it was so good until that point. But then the moment they try to jump into action, it just makes little logical sense. And the same thing was true in Black Panther, both of them. But in general, just give me a little bit more logic. Just push me through that action a little bit more step by step versus just kind of throwing it all up against the board and just saying, oh, they survived. This doesn't work for me. And then this is something I want to hear in the comments. Why the aspect ratio changes? Why pull from wide shots and full screen to the 16:9 with the black bars? I thought there was reason. I thought it made sense at the beginning, but then as it played out through the movie, it just didn't make sense anymore. So give me your feedback. I don't know exactly what that's like. I don't know why he would have chosen to change unless there was a narrative purpose, and I couldn't find one. And I've only seen it once, so hit me up. Let me know what you think. And also let me know if you think that action scene makes any sense or if I missed something about how they survived that initial attack and swarm of all of the vampires. But I also want to say, it seemed to me that the reveal of the vampires, where he goes to the first house and he takes down those 2 people so that they can come as a trio, I think that was a little early. I don't think you needed that scene. I think you could have flashback to it if you wanted to tell where those 2 came from, but we didn't need that. We didn't even need the Indian incursion. That scene felt very out of place to me and took away from the pacing. It's not bad. It definitely adds to the lore, but I think the red eyes should have been during the music scene. I think that oneer is what should have pulled in the vampires, and that's where we should have seen the reveal, because that's what made it interesting. That's the crux of it. That's where the movie shifts into horror. I think it would have made way more sense there. So the ending is a chef's kiss, though, using Buddy Guy, getting in there and making, blues music kind of the connective tissue through history, seeing them kind of give him the respect he deserves as this, spirit controller, if you will, from music, and then, honoring his brother's wish to not kill him and not turn him into a vampire is just good, man. The resolution is just, it makes you feel things. It makes you feel good, and it's really, really fun. So, what do you guys think? Am I way off base on the action logic? What's going on with the aspect ratio? Otherwise, this movie could be a masterpiece. It is some of Ryan Coogler's, I think it might be his best movie. It is incredible. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Hit you soon.